على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له إقرارا به وتوحيدا وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما مزيدا أما بعد. فانطلاقا من قول الإمام أحمد رحمه الله تعالى: لا أعلم قوما أفضل من أهل الحديث لا يعرفون إلا الحديث، أو كما قال رحمه الله. Let us start off with the statement of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah wa radi anhu, in which he said, I don't know the people who are more virtuous and more excellent than the people of hadith, for they only know the hadith of the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. He says, I don't know of the people who are better than the people of hadith. Why? It's because all that they know is hadith, meaning they don't know anything else from the Shari'ah. La. But their main focus, their main argument, what their statements are based off of, their daily lives is based off of the hadith of the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, awwalan wa akhiran, in the beginning and the end. This is why Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala said this about the tulab al-hadith and the ulama al-hadith, is that everything which they believe, practice, is based off of the hadith of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the sunnah of al-Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam. So let us read the hadith bi'idhnillah briefly and try to get some benefit from it, inshaAllah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala, he says in his Musnad, حدثنا علي بن بحر قال حدثنا محمد بن حمير الحمصي قال حدثني إبراهيم بن أبي عبلة عن الوليد بن عبد الرحمن الجرشي قال حدثنا جبير بن نفير عن عوف بن مالك رضي الله عنه أنه قال بينما نحن جلوس عند رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ذات يوم. Imam Ahmad, he says, reported to us Ali ibn Bahr saying that Muhammad ibn Himyar al-Himsi related to us, saying that Ibrahim ibn Abi Ablata narrated to us, and he said from Walid ibn Abdurrahman al-Jurashi, who said that Jubair ibn Nufair narrated to us from Auf ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu. One day we were sitting with the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. So we see here so far is that Imam Ahmad, he reports to us through his sanad, his chain of narration. So when he says حدثنا Ali ibn Bahr, he says reported to us Ali ibn Bahr, then who is Ali ibn Bahr considered in this instance? Who is he considered? He's the what? He's the teacher of Imam Ahmad. He says, Imam Ahmad is saying, he's put it in his book, that Ali ibn Bahr told me. And Ali ibn Bahr, he got it from who? Muhammad ibn Himyar al-Himsi, until the end of the chain. Imam Ahmad died in the year 241 of the Hijrah. He reports from his sheikh, from his sheikh, from his sheikh, from his sheikh, from the Tabi'i, Jubair ibn Nufair, from the companion, Auf ibn Malik. May Allah be well pleased with him. He says, one day we were sitting in the company of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. فَنَظَرَ فِي السَّمَاءِ ثُمَّ قَالَ. So the Prophet ﷺ, he looked up into the sky and he then said, هَذَا أَوَانُ الْعِلْمِ أَنْ يُرْفَعَ. He says, this is the time in which knowledge will be taken away. This is the time in which knowledge will be yurfa, will be raised and lifted up. It will be taken away from the people. فقال له رجل من الأنصار يقال له زياد بن لبيد أيرفع العلم يا رسول الله وفينا كتاب الله وقد علمناه أبناءنا ونساءنا فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So therefore, once the Rasul صلى الله عليه وسلم looked into the sky and he said, this is the time in which knowledge is going to be taken away from the people, one of the companions asked him, and this companion, his name was Ziyad ibn Labid radiyallahu anhu. He said, O Messenger of Allah, will knowledge be taken away from us? When knowledge will be removed and uplifted, and amongst us is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quran. We've taught it to our children, and we've taught it to our wives and our women. How can knowledge be stripped from us and taken away from us? So the Messenger of Allah he went on to say, "In kuntu la'adhunnukum min afqahi ahli al-Madina." He says, "Indeed, I used to think that you were from the most knowledgeable of the men of Medina. I thought that you had the most understanding and comprehension of the men of Medina." Meaning, how could you ask a question like this? I thought that you were more knowledgeable and wiser than this. He goes on to say, ثم ذكر براءة أهل الكتابين وعندهما ما عندهما من كتاب الله عز وجل. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he went on to mention the misguidance of the people of the scripture, the Jews and the Christians, how they went astray, how they earned Allah's anger, and what happened to them. And they had the knowledge of the scripture, they had the Torah, they had the Injil, and still they went astray, and they became misguided. He goes on to say, فَلَقِيَ جُبَيْرُ بن نفير شداد بن أوس بالمصلى فحدثه هذا الحديث عن عوف بن مالك. So that's the end of the first narration. The narrator, he goes on to say that Jubair ibn Nufayr, who was the what in this hadith? Who is he? We said he's the what in this hadith? He's the tabi'i. He's the tabi'i. Jubair ibn Nufayr is narrating from whom? He narrated from Auf ibn Malik radiallahu anhu. He says Jubair ibn Nufayr, he met Shaddad ibn Aus in the Musalla. You know Shaddad ibn Aus radiallahu anhu was from the Sahaba, well-known companion. So this tabi'i, Jubair ibn Nufayr, he met Shaddad ibn Aus in the Musalla. And then he told him what he heard from Auf ibn Malik. He told him the hadith that he told him from the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. قال صدق عوف. He says, Auf has spoken the truth. He narrated to you a true hadith. ثم قال, he then said to Jubair ibn Nufayr, وهل تدري ما رفع العلم? He says, do you know how knowledge will be taken away? Do you know what the uplifting of knowledge is? قال قلت لا أدري. He says, I don't know what knowledge is. I don't know what the uplifting of knowledge is. قال ذهاب أوعيته. He says, it is the going away. It is the death of the bearers of that knowledge. It is the going away of the people who possess and contain that knowledge. قال وهل تدري أي العلم أول يرفع? He then asked him, do you know the very first thing from knowledge which will be taken away? Do you know the very first part of knowledge which the people will be stripped from? قال قلت لا أدري. He says, I don't know. قال الخشوع. He says the very first thing that's going to be taken away from the people's knowledge is khushu'. It's khushu', is that submissiveness, that humble, attentive focus, and that fear and watchfulness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. حَتَّى لَا تَكَادْ تَرَى خَاشِعًا. He says so much so, things will become so bad, you'll very seldomly see a person who has khushu'. It's going to be taken away from people that you barely can come across one man who has some type of khushu', whether it's in the prayer or outside of the prayer. This hadith is an authentic hadith from the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. And in this hadith there are countless benefits and many things that we can ponder on and reflect on. However, the thing that we want to focus on the most is what? Is one issue. One issue. And what is that issue? Who can think what that issue from this hadith is? Yani there's an ishkal, there's a problem here in this hadith. Or that which seems to be a problem. Think about the hadith, what happened, what was said. Fadl Abu Bakr. Wait, we read the entire hadith again?
No.
The debate about there's something that we want to focus on in this hadith. A problem. Yani that which seems to be ishkal, apparently. Because we know there isn't two authentic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ which contradict and go against each other. In reality. But outwardly, ishkalat kabira jiddan. There are several issues which could outwardly seem to be a problem. In this hadith there's a problem. Fadl.
How is knowledge going to be taken away?
How is knowledge going to be taken away? It says how knowledge is going to be taken away, so we lift it up. That's not the issue. It's close though, close, Mujahid, but not close enough. Fadl.
Not having an understanding of how the knowledge will be taken.
Not having an understanding of how close is more.
Someone in the chain.
La. That's sahih. There's nothing pertaining to the hadith's authenticity. Nothing pertaining to the infrastructure of hadith and the method of the hadith. Inshallah, we take one more attempt, then we read what we have, what the people of knowledge of the past have said regarding this hadith. Fadl.
Who are the people that, the people with knowledge that...
أوعية العلم من who are the vessels of knowledge. طيب. قال الطحاوي رحمه الله تعالى في مشكل الآثار فأنكر منكر هذه الحديث وقال كيف يكون العلم يرفع في زمن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وأيامه هي الأيام السعيدة التي لا أمثال لها والوحي قائما كان ينزل عليه فيها. Imam al-Tahawi, who was from the greatest of the ulama of hadith of the 4th century and of the Hanafi madhab, may Allah have mercy upon him, from the kibar al-ulama of hadith and fiqh, from the lands of Egypt. He was famous for one branch of the sciences of hadith. And that branch was the branch of that which is called Mushkil al-Athar, or Ma'an al-Athar. He was known to be an expert in the science of problematic narrations. Things which seem to be problematic. One hadith says this, the next hadith says something which is totally opposite. How do we understand these two hadith? Is there a contradiction? And so on and so forth. This is a science from the sciences of hadith. We have the sciences that pertain to the asanid, the sciences that pertain to the fiqh of the hadith, sciences that pertain to the criticism and the grading of the ruwat, the ilal, the hidden defects, and so on and so forth. And then there's one science of hadith which is called ilm ma'an al-ahadith, the knowledge that pertains to the things which seem to be problematic. And there are several ahadith. If you apparently looked at them without reflecting on them properly, it may seem to be a problem or a contradiction. So the scholars, they came and they didn't leave any avenue, any door open. It wasn't one leaf that they didn't lift up for the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And from those sciences is this science, which they took those hadith which seemed to be problematic, and they gathered them, they studied them, and they brought the answers for those things which seem to be problems. And in this hadith, there is a problem. Imam al-Tahawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, and we said that he died before the middle of the 4th century. He said, so someone may say that this hadith and hadith which are similar to it are inauthentic. It's a problem. What is that problem? He says, how can knowledge be lifted up and raised during the lifetime of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? And the Prophet ﷺ, during his lifetime, when the Quran was sent down to him. And we know that the days in which he lived were the happiest days ever in the history of humanity. So how can knowledge be taken up and uplifted during those days? Everybody understand the problem? Everybody got the problem?
No.
How can he say this is when knowledge is going to be taken away? During his lifetime, and Allah was sending down the Quran. And Jibreel alayhi salam was inspiring the Prophet ﷺ, and Allah was inspiring him and teaching him the sunnah and what to do and what to say. And how can it be said that knowledge is being uplifted and taken away? Everybody got the problem? Before the answer, before the refutation, do we all understand the problem?
No.
Clear. طيب. Imam al-Tahawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, فَمُحَالٌ أَنْ يَكُونَ الْعِلْمَ الَّذِي يَنْزِلُ فِيهَا ويبقى في أيدي الناس ليبلغه بعضهم بعضا إلى يوم القيامة كما أمروا به فيكون ذلك مرفوعا في تلك الأيام لأن ذلك لو كان كذلك انقطع التبليغ وبقي الناس في أيام رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بلا علم وكانوا بعده في خروجهم عنه أغلب وهذا يستحيل لأن العلم إنما علم بأخذ خلف عن سلف إلى يوم القيامة. Imam al-Tahawi rahimahullah goes on to say, if this was the case, then it would be impossible for any knowledge to remain, to be passed on from one generation to the next. If the knowledge is being taken away during the time of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then what about right now today, 1433? What knowledge will remain if it was removed then? All that? Going deeper into the problem. He says here, if this was the case, there will be no tabligh, there will be no conveying of knowledge. No knowledge will be spread and passed on if it was taken away during those days. He says, and after the generation of the companions, from the Salaf and the Tabi'een, Atba' Tabi'een, up to this day, the people will be worse and worse and worse every generation. Tayyib. He says, and knowledge, he says, and this is impossible, because knowledge is only taken from one generation after another generation like this and like that. So what is the answer? How can we understand this hadith in light of what Imam al-Tahawi rahimahullah ta'ala just mentioned?
The only way that I can see is those that is in the midst, is there with the Prophet, and the knowledge that is given to his companions, that they're going to be dying off.
The companions would die. He said that what's meant by the knowledge being taken away is the death of the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum during the lifetime of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Jiggy. Anyone else have a different understanding? Abu Bakr.
I have an understanding that even though the companions would be taken away and everything, the knowledge still will remain because Allah knows all. So, so even though people be passing, knowledge still will remain because Allah sees,
in control of everything.
The knowledge is going to be passed down to different generations to generation. Now, from my understanding is that when you understand about, even now to the day, how some people they don't have no khushu', and you can see that happening now, today. Not that the knowledge is getting any greater.
They have knowledge, but it's not deep, it's not in their hearts. Let's just look at the issue one more time. Let's look at the problem again. During the time of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, do you think that the knowledge was in constant increase until it reached its point, its climax, or in decrease, or it stayed stagnant? Which of the three?
Increase.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Because the Quran was continually being sent down up until the Prophet ﷺ's death, or before his death, a month or 2 months before he died, towards the end of his lifetime. So therefore the knowledge, it is a must that it has been continuous. So it's impossible, as he just said, for the knowledge to be taken, whether it's companions dying, whether it's no khushu', for the knowledge to be going down during his lifetime. Mustahil. Rather, it has to keep going up until it reaches the highest point. Then, perhaps a person may say it went down. So that's not a strong answer. That's not a strong answer. Fadal. Yalla bakr, fakir. Kabir dimar.
لأن النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام ما كان يقصد في زمانه عليه الصلاة والسلام كان يتكلم فيما سيحدث بعد
في المستقبل. He said the Prophet was speaking about the future. He said that the Rasul was speaking about the future, not his actual time period. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Sound good?
No.
Sound good? لا أسأل جيد sound good? The Prophet ﷺ, he said he made a lot of prophecies. Everything that he spoke about doesn't mean that it has to happen during his lifetime. The Prophet ﷺ says هذا أوان يرفع العلم. He says this is when knowledge is going to be taken away. Let's ask Abu Abdullah, does he have a dalil, a qarina, a context clue, anything which led him to that? Because one may say this is ta'weed. You've interpreted the hadith. The hadith doesn't say that. One may say whether it's wrong or correct or incorrect. I've heard someone say the zahir al-hadith la yaqul hada. The hadith doesn't say that.
صحيح.
فمن أين له هذا؟ لعله عنده شيء. تفضل.
أخذت هذا مما ذكرت لنا من قول الإمام الطحاوي رحمه الله تعالى.
هذا يستحيل يعني. طيب كون الشيء مستحيلا وجواب عن إشكال يختلف أكيد. أنا ما قلت هذا بس أن نريد منك هل في الحديث شيء يدل على هذا؟ ممكن؟ There's a قاعدة that the people of knowledge mention إن الألفاظ قوالب المعاني, that the actual wordings of something, the wordings of the text, they contain the meanings. Let us reflect on the text. We're going to come back. Read it. Let's read Tahawi's Kalam. He says here, فكان جوابنا له في ذلك أن هذا الحديث من أحسن الأحاديث وأصحها. He says our answer to this ishkal is that this hadith is from the most beautiful and authentic ahadith. It's from the most beautiful, pleasant ahadith, and it's totally authentic. He says, وأن الذي فيه من نظر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى السماء ومن قوله عند ذلك هذا أوان يرفع فيه العلم إنما هو إشارة منه إلى وقت يرفع فيه العلم, ويجوز أن يكون هذا وقتا يكون بعده, لأن هذا إنما هو كلمة يشار بها إلى الأشياء. Imam al-Tahawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, we look at this hadith and we see that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he looked into the sky. Abu Abdullah's answer, which is going to come, mashallah, tabarakallah, was muwaffaq. It was the right answer. He hit the bullseye, but it was something that he missed out on that was from the actual hadith. That context clue was what? Is that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he looked into the sky as if Allah was showing him something and revealing something to him, as if it was bigger picture than his time period. And he was speaking about the what, as he said? The future. The future. And this is a very important point here, walillahi alhamd, is that often something could be correct. Something could be incorrect. A person could be correct or a person could be incorrect. A person could be upon the sunnah, a person could be upon other than the sunnah. But the way and how you reach that result could be wrong and could be an error. That this could be a reality. This issue is kada and kada, and fulan is not this and he is that. But how did you get there? Based off of what? How did you reach that? In daleel? Or what someone told you, or what you heard, or what you thought? Or an intuitive thought? Well, this, so therefore it has to be that. And that's a big, big khata in ilm. And it's for this reason Imam al-Shatibi rahimahullah ta'ala, he has mentioned that the one who was not qualified to make ijtihad in the Shari'ah, to get to a ruling without direct proof from the Quran and the Sunnah, ijtihad, a scholar who's mujtahid, who's an independent jurist, one to perform ijtihad, even if he's correct in his ijtihad, but he was not qualified, he is sinful, he's at him. And he's not rewarded for his ijtihad, because he's not qualified to do so. This is a very important point for us to pay attention to. That this issue could be, as you're saying, this group, this person, this masjid, it could be like that. But how did you reach that result? How did you get there? Based off of taqleed, blindly following someone else? Based off of dhan, just thinking? Or based off of a proof from Allah and His Messenger? So the one who is not qualified for that, he has to avoid that. Avoid reaching a ruling, reaching a destination without the proper ilm. And this is what Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala explained in his great book, Miftah Dar al-Sa'adah. When he spoke about, he said that all of the intellectuals are in unanimous agreement that the one who travels without knowledge of the road, even if he reaches his destination, he's still condemned, he's still considered a fool. He's still considered a fool, even if he reaches safety. If he didn't know the road, if he didn't have a proper guide, and he just went out and said, I'll find my destination, he's considered a fool and an idiot to all of the intellectuals, all of them. So this is a very important ibrah for us to understand and to know and to listen to the ilm. And then you can reach what you're trying to reach. But لكن بالطريق. خير inshallah. So Imam al-Tahawi rahimahullah ta'ala, so we see that Abu Abdullah hafidhullah ta'ala, his opinion, alhamdulillah, was exactly what Imam al-Tahawi is saying. He says here, when the Prophet ﷺ looked into the sky, And he said, this is the time in which knowledge will be raised or uplifted. He says it's only talking about the future. And that's because it is permissible or it's possible for him to speak about his own time or the future. And that's because the word hada in the Arabic language is ishara. And it shows the importance of the Arabic language. How can you understand what's correct and incorrect and you don't understand Arabic? You don't understand a basic rule in Arabic grammar. Hada could be used to point at something now or the future. طيب? He says here, وَمِنْ ذَلِكَ قَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى هَذَا يَوْمُكُمْ الَّذِي كُنْتُمْ تُوعَدُونَ. When Allah said in the Quran, He says, this is your day which you used to be promised. This is your day which you used to be promised. لَيْسَ يَوْمُكُمْ فِيهِ يَوْمٌ أُنْزِلَ ذَلِكَ عَلَى رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. And He says, and that day that Allah says, this is the day in which you used to be promised, was not the day in which it was sent down to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's talking about what? Yawm al-Qiyamah. Was the Quran sent down upon the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam Yawm al-Qiyamah? La, but it says hada. Everybody get the point? At-Tahawi rahimahullah ta'ala was going to say, هذا ما توعدون لكل أواب حفيظ ليس على شيء من يوم قيل له ذلك في أمثال لهذا كثيرة في القرآن فمثل ذلك ما في حديث عوف قد يحتمل أن يكون رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لما نظر إلى السماء أريت فيها الزمان الذي يرفع فيه العلم فقال ما قال من أجل ذلك. Imam al-Tahawi rahimahullah ta'ala goes on to say, when Allah mentions هذا ما توعدون لكل أواب حفيظ, Allah says every constant repentant, one who preserved the laws, rules, and His regulations, this is what you have been promised on this day. And that's not Yawm al-Qiyamah, when it was sent down to him. He says, and there are countless other examples of this. So therefore, it is possible that when the Rasul ﷺ looked into the sky, it's when Allah showed him that day, showed him that time period when the people would die, when the khushu will be taken away, and so on and so forth. That's why it's important, as we said, to read the text and understand the text and pick up on the context clues in the actual text. And then At-Tahawi rahimahullah ta'ala goes on to say, ومما يدخل على ما ذكرنا من هذا احتجاجه عليه الصلاة والسلام بضلالة اليهود والنصارى. عند اليهود منهم التوراة وعند النصارى منهم الإنجيل ولم يمنعهم من الضلالة وإنما كان ذلك بعد ذهاب أنبيائهم صلوات الله وسلامه عليهم لا في أيامهم. فكذلك كانوا عند رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم به أمته في حديث عوف. هذا يحتمل أن يكون بعد أيامه وبعد ذهاب من تبعه وخلفه بالرشد والهداية من أصحابه رضوان الله عليهم ومن سائر أمته سواهم. انتهى كلام الطحاوي رحمه الله تعالى. He says another proof that the Rasul was talking about the future is that he mentioned the Jews and the Christians. He mentioned the Jews and the Christians, and they had the Torah, and they had the Injil, but it didn't stop them from going astray. He says, and this only happened after the prophets and the messengers had died and passed away, not during the days of the prophets and the messengers. At-Tahawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he goes on to say, so this is what's been here in the hadith of Auf radiyallahu anhu. After the companions died and passed off, until those who followed their way up until this generation or this day. That's the end of the kalam of Imam At-Tahawi rahimahullah ta'ala. There are several important benefits in this hadith, but this is what we wanted to focus on. This is what we wanted to focus on, is that knowledge will be taken away from us. Knowledge will be stripped from us. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has promised to protect His deen and to protect His Quran and protect the Sunnah of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Inna nahnu anzalna dhikra wa inna lahu lahafizun. Indeed, we have sent down the dhikr, and indeed we shall preserve it. Khairan inshallah. This was a brief preface to what we wanted to speak about bi'idhnillah in detail. And I requested from the brothers that we have a projector screen, because I have a slideshow here. However, we don't have that, so we'll do with what we have, and we'll make out with the what we have, inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What we want to speak about today, by Allah's permission, is ahkam az-zakat. We're going to speak about the rulings and the regulations of a zakat. The Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, he said in the authentic hadith, Buni al-Islamu ala khams. He says Islam is based on 5 things. And from those 5 things is a zakat. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said in another authentic hadith, Man yuridillahu bi khayran yufaqihu fi din. Whoever Allah wants good for, He gives him understanding of the religion. The point that we're trying to make is what? Is that something so essential, so basic, so crucial from our religion. It is very unfortunate and it's very sad that we spend the least amount of time in speaking about it. The least amount of time in speaking about the basic rulings of the arkan of Islam. Play it. How many conferences or lectures or classes have you been in speaking about the rulings of Zakat?
One.
How many years you been Muslim, Jacob? 35 years. 35 years as a Muslim, and he says he's been in one class on Zakat. Wallahi, that's serious. You have any other Sheikh? You been Muslim for a while?
3 years.
3 years. Okay, 3 years. We need Sheikh Mahdi, how long? 81. Since 81. Play. How many classes have you been on Zakat? He says he can't remember. Play. A Zakat, you said it's from the supererogatory things of Islam, right? Yani extra stuff. Huh?
Okay.
The extras, yani the stuff that's only obligatory upon some people to learn. Huh? You sure? Wait, what is Zakat? Is Zakat from what?
It's one of the pillars. It's one of the pillars of Islam.
It's from the 5 pillars of Islam, yani the basis of the deen. The point is that we have to make a serious reevaluation. Speaking about myself firstly, kulluna, we have to make a serious reevaluation. If we think that we're going to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and khalas. We reach safely, khalas. This is a serious issue. When Allah Azza wa Jalla will ask each and every one of us, what did you do with my religion? When Allah Azza wa Jalla will send those angels in that dark, cold grave by itself, and those angels, which are not, the hadith doesn't say that they're light, easygoing angels, they're simple angels, they're shidadun, they're strong, severe angels. As Allah Azza wa Jalla says, Tawafathu rusuluna wa hum la yufarritun. Allah says that our messengers will give them death, and they never ever fall short. They don't make any slippings. Allah says, take the soul of this person, punish this person, throw him in the fire. They're not going to slow down from Allah's commandment, the blink of an eye, as Allah has mentioned. So those angels, they're going to come to you and they're going to ask you, what is your deed? Ma dinuka. What are you going to tell them? Well, this and that and this and that and a long list of things. But you were ignorant, neglectful, heedless of the basics of your deen. If you don't think that that's a serious problem, then may Allah have mercy on your soul. Very serious issue. He says he's been Muslim for 30 years and he's been in one class on Zakat. Khairan, inshallah, we don't want to spend too much time in speaking about this. Al-Muhim, we're trying to bring something to our attention, that we have to reevaluate our learning and our ilm, and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala requires from every single one of us. We'll start off, inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by speaking about Taysir Ahkam al-Zakat. Rulings of Zakat made easy. We don't want to make things difficult. We don't want to make things confusing. We want to be simple, concise, yet comprehensive, and right to the point, bi-idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. And inshallah, we're going to have question and answers, inshallah. Inshallah, every brother, when you answer the question, when I'm calling you, raise your right hand, and you tell everyone your name or your kunya, preferably your kunya. The definition of the term Zakat. Before we speak about what is Zakat, what is its rulings, can you put Zakat in a sadaqah box? How much, who, when? What does the term Zakat mean in the Arabic language and in the Islamic sense? Khayr, inshallah, I'll give sadaqah. The first thing will be, I'll give to you. And the next one, you have to answer the question, inshallah. The word zakat has 3 meanings in the Arabic language. Has 3 basic meanings in the Arabic language. The first meaning is called al-tuhur. Al-tuhur. Zakat means something in Arabic which is pure and clean, or a means of purification. Number 2, zakat means an-nama, growth or increase. Number 3, al-barakatu wa ziyadatu bil khair. Zakat means literally a blessing or an increase of good. That's the definition of a zakat in the Arabic language. Purification, increase, barakah. P-I-B. Purification, increase, barakah. There's the 3 meanings of the word zakat, the bare meaning in the Arabic language. If you went to an Arab who did not mix with the non-Arabs too much or at all, regardless of whether he was a Muslim, a Christian Arab, a Jewish Arab, an atheist, he has pure Arabic language, and he says the word zakat, he would understand what you're talking about linguistically. And it'll be one of these 3 meanings. Khayran inshallah. The word zakat legislatively means in the Shari'ah التعبد لله عز وجل بدفع. Well, inshallah, for lack of time, we're going to just keep it in English. There's not enough time for us to say everything in English, everything in Arabic, and then in English. We'll just say it in English. The word zakat legislatively means to worship Allah the Exalted by paying tax on your wealth that has met a specific minimum with specific conditions to its rightful recipients. A zakat is to worship Allah the Exalted by paying tax on your wealth that has met a specific minimum with special conditions to its rightful people or its rightful recipients. That's the definite definition of zakat. So we understand from this definition is that firstly zakat is what? It's ibadah. It's not a custom, it's not a culture, it is ibadah. So you must have sincerity and you must follow the sunnah. And you must have knowledge, most important, you must have ilm of the zakat. If you think that your zakat is what you give to the sadaqah box, and the zakat is what you give on Friday and that's it, if you think that and you live your life like that, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made books and tapes and lectures available, easy in English and Arabic, and hands reach, it's going to be a very serious thing on your Qiyamah. You lived as a Muslim for 40 years, 50 years, 10 years, 5 years, and you didn't learn the basics of how to pay zakat. That's a big problem. A zakat means to worship Allah the Exalted by paying tax on your wealth that has met a specific minimum with special conditions to its rightful recipients. Khayran inshallah. Next point. And if we have the slideshow, you can see it, and but we'll go ahead. What is the status of zakat in Islam? We need to volunteer for this question, inshallah. The status of zakat in Islam. What is so important or virtuous about zakat in Islam? What's the big deal with zakat in Islam? Why are we giving a whole lecture about zakat in Islam?
So we can learn about zakat and we won't just get sadaqah on Friday?
MashaAllah. So we can learn about zakat and not just give sadaqah on Friday. Tayyib, MashaAllah. Barakallahu feek. Tayyib, what is the status of zakat in Islam? Is it something that's extremely important, or alhamdulillah? Fadl Sheikh, you have to tell us your name or your kunya. So, Abu Mu'min. Abdul Mu'min? Tayyib, Sheikh Abdul Mu'min. Fadl.
I'd say that is extremely important.
Extremely important. It has a high status in Islam.
Now,
Tayyib.
because the first part is the pillar, one of the pillars.
Firstly, because it's a pillar of Islam. Ahsan. Tayyib.
Worship.
It's worship.
It's a type of worship in the law and of the lost people.
Right.
Because the zakat, you take from the wealthy and you give to the ones who don't have.
Right. Right. I said that. Very good. Number one, the first point, or the first way in which we can prove its importance and its status is by saying that zakat is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. As Shaykh Abdul Mu'min mentioned. That's sufficient right there. Khalas, yakfi. To know how important zakat is. It's from the 5 pillars. And if it's that important, then I think it's something that we should be constantly speaking about. If it's from the pillars of Islam. Number 2, zakat has been mentioned in connection with the prayer in over 80 verses in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Over 80 times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said zakat and salah like this as a pair. Tayyib. Very seldom will you find the words salah in the Quran mentioned unless there is zakat. وَأَوْصَانِي بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ Allah, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ. Then Allah says what? After them, after those who preserve their prayers, those who have a haqq ma'loom, a well-known right in their wealth for the poor and for the needy. So this is from the things which prove the status of zakat in Islam. Next point, the wisdoms of the legislation of zakat. Why was zakat legislated? And this is something that we've prepared to put together. And only if perhaps the next time we can actually have it on the board, inshallah. What is the wisdom behind zakat being legislated? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala legislate zakat? Just to take money from his slaves?
No.
For the Mawiyah.
To give sadaqah to the poor people.
To give to the poor people. Good. Ahsant. Barakallahu feek. MashaAllah.
So,
We need some more participants. So I have to call on the brothers. Fadl ya akhi. Your name, akhi? Abdul Samir. Fadl.
Like we said before, zakat would be like a mercy from Allah to purify our wealth.
To purify your wealth.
And not sum up from wisdom would be like to protect myself from stinginess.
To protect yourself from being stingy. What's so bad about being stingy? What's wrong with being stingy?
Well,
Why can't I be stingy? It's your mushkila. It's my money, I earned it.
like it protects somebody from like being stingy.
Clear, that's clear. But what is so bad about being stingy? It's a very important point I'm trying to make. What's the problem with being stingy? But I sent Abdul Samir, I sent. Shukran. Fadl ya akhi.
Abdullah.
Abdul Azim, mashallah. Fadl. Bismillah.
No, it doesn't show the brotherhood. It's like
Yani that giving zakat is from the signs of strong brotherhood. Those who are more fortunate look out for those who are less fortunate. Tayyib. Tayyib. Anything else? Now, Fadl, Sheikh, tell us your kunya. Now your kunya. Abu what? Abu Spices? MashaAllah. Abu Nazir. Tayyib. Fadl.
It also shows a form of the matter of worship, because you said that it's a form of worship.
Tayyib. That it's a sign that you love Allah and you want to worship Allah by doing what He told you to do. Tayyib. Jiggy. Number 1. Wisdoms of legislation of zakat. It purifies the souls of humans from the vice of miserliness, stinginess, and greed, as Abdul Samir mentioned or pointed to. It's from the wisdoms of a zakat is that it cleanses you from these things. And when I was asking Abdul Samir, what's so bad about being stingy or about being a miser? What's the problem? Is that stinginess and greed is a social, is a spiritual illness, it's a sickness, it's a disease. It's a disease. That you have so much wealth, but you're just so stingy and greedy, and you want it off yourself. That's not a healthy soul. In any religion, in any culture, no one loves the Scrooge, right? Say? This is from the wisdoms. And we know that everything that we do in Islam is supposed to increase us. Every ibadah that you make and perform is to make you a better slave of Allah. It's not to bring you down. And it's not to bring others down. It's supposed to elevate and increase. The companions of Allah, we know how they lived during Jahiliyyah. We know what they did and how they lived. And look what happened to them after they accepted the Rasul. Look how their lives grew. In every single aspect of life. Is this not the case? In every single aspect of life. Number 2, it comforts and assists the poor and helps the needy and destitute fulfill some of their needs. From the wisdom of Zakat is that it aids those who have difficulty giving their or performing their needs and their necessities. Number 3, it establishes the general welfare upon which the life and well-being of the Muslim nation rests. It establishes the general welfare upon which the life and well-being of the Muslim nation rests. It's very, very important.
Can you repeat that?
Is that it establishes the general welfare upon which the life and well-being of the Muslim nation rests. That Islam is an entire religion. It's not just something that you believe. It's not just something that you perform. It's not just something with politics or with finances. It's no. Islam is an entire sphere. Allah says, enter into the religion wholeheartedly. Not just one aspect of the deen. Not just one part of the deen. Which could be important. Which could be but the entire deen. So Allah Azza wa Jalla, the proof that the Shari'ah is divine and is from Allah is that it's complete and it's total. And every single other religion or every misinterpretation of Islam, we find that it only claims and clutches to one part of the deen. This religion only deals with that. Separation of church and state. This sect, this group only deals with this from. That's all they know of Islam. And this is not from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is going to give us a complete Shari'ah. Shari'atan wa minhaja. Allah says an entire legislature and in a complete method and a way of life. A Shari'ah and a minhaj of life. So a zakat is something which is a necessary component of the Muslims' welfare, of the Muslim ummah. And we know that Allah Azza wa Jalla has called us an ummah. And He orders to establish an ummah. How can that ummah function? How can it run without basic economics? Impossible. It's impossible. And we know that zakat is one of the most important components of the Islamic financial system. Islam, there's finances in Islam. There are finances in Islam. And the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he dealt with those things. He told the companions how to believe and what to believe. He taught them about what to do when jihad, what to do when they go to their homes, to their wives, everything. And he also told the companions what to do with their wealth. And from that which he explained to them was to spend, was to build, was to establish. So a zakat is necessary for there to be a Muslim nation, a Muslim community. There can't be no masjid without a proper system, let alone an entire country, which is a Muslim country. Number 4, it limits the growth of wealth among the rich and in the hands of the merchants and professionals, such that wealth is not restricted to certain classes, and such that wealth is not circulated only among the wealthy. That it prevents people from getting so much wealth, and the majority of the people having so little wealth. That gross classification of people, like today,
like in the dunya,
either rich or poor. That's not how it should be in Islam. So it's very important. It keeps them from having the money just being monopolized by one class of people, but everyone has at least their basic necessities. And if you look in the world today, there are countless countries, if not the majority of the countries in the world, where so many people sleep every night hungry. Where so many people in the world don't have their basic necessities. We're not talking about luxury comfort. No. People don't have basic necessities. And that's a major problem. And the only cure to that is Islam. That's it. The only cure to those problems is the Shari'ah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Khairan inshallah. Moving on to the next point. The ruling on paying zakat. What is the ruling on paying zakat? Zakat is incumbent according to the book, the sunnah, and the scholarly consensus of the Muslims. Zakat is obligatory, incumbent, wajib, mandatory. According to what? Three things. The book, the sunnah, and the ijma' of the Muslimin. And we know that these three things are the adillah in Islam. This is the proof. Kitab, sunnah, ijma'. Kitab, sunnah, ijma'. These three things are the adillah in Islam. Nothing else. Kitab, sunnah, al-ijma'. Tayyib. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, the next point is, it is from those rulings of Islam that are well known by necessity, and which anyone who rejects them will commit major disbelief. The zakat, approved that zakat is obligatory, is that every single Muslim knows that you must pay zakat. And the one who says, I don't have to pay zakat, regardless of the conditions, but just let's say zakat is not obligatory. No, you don't have to pay zakat. As long as you believe in Allah, you make salah, that's all you have to do. That's kufr akbar, that's major kufr. It's major kufr and left the fold of Islam. Because it's well known that zakat is mandatory. Why? It was mentioned in the Quran over 80 places. Unless the person is extremely ignorant and very, very, very far from living with the Muslims. As for the Quran, the Allah subhanahu the Exalted said in Surah Tawbah, the 9th chapter of the Quran, verse 103, take alms from their wealth, which will purify them, and cleanse them therewith. خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُمْ وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ بِهَا. Allah says, take, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He commands the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to take from their wealth a sadaqah, a charity, which would do what? Hurt them? Harm them? Break them? No. It will cleanse them. It will clean them. As for the sunnah, then we have on the authority of Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anhuma. May Allah be pleased with him both. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Islam has been built upon 5 things. Bearing witness that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, and that I am the Messenger of Allah, establishing the prayer, paying zakat, making the pilgrimage, and fasting. And the hadith is agreed upon by Bukhari and Muslim. As for the scholarly consensus, al-ijma', then it has been narrated in every single madhab that zakat is obligatory. There's no khilaf. The Hanafi madhab, Shafi'i madhab, Hanbali madhab, Maliki madhab, Zahiri madhab, all of the ulama and the fuqaha have agreed that zakat is an obligation and it's something which is mandatory. Tayyib. We move on to the next point. Now let's get into the actual meat now. The types of wealth upon which zakat is due. What are the things that you must pay zakat for? We'll take a question. What are the things, the types of wealth that you possess for which you must pay zakat? Fadal, we need someone else. Akhi, with the burgundy garment on. Your name, please?
Sadat.
Sadat. MashaAllah. Tayyib. What are the things that you must pay zakat on?
What are some of the things that you must pay zakat on? I know some of the things that you must pay zakat on, I believe, is gold.
Gold. Tayyib. More. Give us everything that you have, inshallah. Bismillah. We need you to process and we'll come back to you. We have to go. We got to go. We need something else. I'll listen here.
Cattle.
Cattle. That's it? Just cattle? Tayyib. So far we have 2 types of wealth. Cattle and gold. Tayyib. Fadala. Tell us. You couldn't hear everyone.
Abu Hamid.
Abu Hamid.
Fadala. The money that you held for a period of time.
That's what we're talking about right now. But what type of money? Don't use the word money. Iyaka. Beware of using the word money. We say wealth. Wealth. Some people, they money, wealth. Some people consider mal. Wealth. The wealth that you have for a specific amount of time. Nah. But what type of wealth? Do I have to pay zakat on my clothes? on this order, that's what we're trying to get to. Keep thinking, we have two. We have gold, and Abdul Samir said cattle. We're going to come back to those 2 points. Follow Mawiyah.
The masjid.
The masjid. 3. Gold, cattle, and the masjid. Abdul Mu'min.
Yeah, my queen is Abu Kutub.
Abu Kutub. MashaAllah. Father of books.
You pay the zakat on your children?
On children. 4 things. Follow Sheikh. Bismillah. Abu, Abu, knock 1-2 punch. Abu Sharif. Follow. Abu Sharif.
Yeah. On land.
On land. Land. 5 things. Make sure someone get this down. We're going to come back to it. We want the sisters to participate also. Things that you must pay zakat on. You need some more participants.
Property.
It says property. Property. طيب. تفضل. ترى شو الكنية؟ ما عرفتنا بكنيتك الشريفة.
أبو عبد الله.
وإن كانت معروفة ولكن. طيب تفضل.
Abu Mujahid.
Abu Mujahid. تفضل.
Slaves.
Slaves. That's 6 things. Make sure you get all these things down. طيب. Bismillah. We have property like buildings, the sister says. Property like buildings and stuff. Play it, inshallah. We need someone else. Hold it out. What's your name?
Isa.
Isa. Right. What is something that you have to pay zakat for? Sheikh Hassan.
Hajj.
Hajj. 7 things so far. Hold on, Sheikh Hassan. Alaikum salam.
Sadaqah.
Sadaqah. Number 8. Play it, inshallah. We take 1 more, then we give what we have. Hold on. Sheikh Muhammad.
Yeah.
Abu Kutub.
You pay zakat on anything Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you with.
Anything that Allah bless you with. Allahu Akbar. That's the 9 things. We have 9 things. Okay, who give me the 9 things? Father Mawiyah.
Slaves, farms, roads.
Slaves, farms, and roads. How many?
Gold.
That's 11 things so far. He said roads and
Clothes.
Tayyib.
Slaves, clothes,
Tayyib.
farms.
Jiggy. Okay, who give me all 11 things? Who wrote them down? Father, your name? Abdul Ali. Father.
Cattle.
Now, everyone pay close attention. Khalik Maya. He says cattle. Number 2.
Gold.
Gold. Number 3.
The masajid.
You have to pay zakat on the masajid. Number 4.
Children.
Children. Number 5.
Land.
Land. Number 6.
Property.
Property.
Slaves.
Slaves.
Buildings.
Buildings.
Stuff.
And stuff. Tayyib. Khair inshallah.
Hajj.
Hajj? Right. And sadaqah. Tayyib.
Anything that Allah blesses you with.
Anything that Allah blesses you. Allahu Akbar. هذه أشد واحد. Anything Allah blesses you with. طيب. خير inshallah. Number 1, the first one is monetary assets. Monetary assets. Monetary assets. We didn't say money. We didn't say dollars, cents, reals, rupees, euros, gold or silver. Monetary asset. And the reason why we chose that word is because it includes a naqdain, gold and silver. Because that was mentioned in Rasul's time. The Prophet didn't say dollars. He said dhahab. And he said fidda, or wedded. Gold and silver. So one may say, how do you say I have to pay zakat on money with dollar bills? And there were no dollar bills during the time of the Rasul. That's why we chose the word monetary assets. Things which take the place of gold and silver. No, not commodities. Monetary asset. Commodity could be something else, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Right, that's the first thing that you must pay zakat on, is monetary assets.
Treasure.
Treasure. MashaAllah. Right. Number two. The second thing that you must pay zakat on of the Sunni is livestock. Livestock and not cattle. Livestock. Let's say I have camels, or I have goat, Sheep.
I meant to say like, I meant to say like you got a farm like.
Brother, you said it. Right? You know, صحيح؟ It said cattle, which is the truth. Which is close. But I'm trying to. We want you to be right on the mark. It shows us he meant something, and we took what he said. That's it. Don't explain it. You said it. Khalas. Right. Number 2 is what? Abdul Samir? Livestock. Person can have camels, sheep, goat, cows, bulls, maybe even water buffalo. Bison. Right. Not chicken. Not chicken. Livestock. There's no zakat on chicken. Don't worry. No zakat on chicken. Not on donkeys. Number 3.
Copper.
Number 3. Sheep. Good. MashaAllah. Sheep. Number 3 is agricultural produce. Agricultural produce. Al-Kharij min al-Ard. Al-Kharij min al-Ard.
Agricultural produce?
Agricultural produce. Things that come from the ground. That's which is considered produce. Number 4. The 4th thing, Safwan, that you must pay zakat on, according, and we're sticking with is women's jewelry. Women's jewelry. Zakat is due on the gold that you bought your wife. She called it, or you're gonna buy your wife tonight, inshallah. Right? After the ducks.
In the near future.
In the near future, huh? Right. Number 5. Treasures, as Muawiyah said. Give me a high five. MashaAllah. Subhanakallah. MashaAllah. You mean right hand. MashaAllah. Treasures. And we'll explain these things. We're just going to give you them right now at once. Number 6. Minerals. Minerals that you take and extract from the earth. You must pay zakat on them. Number 7. Merchandise. Merchandise. Things that you own and that you sell. Merchandise. Okay, how many do we have? Muhammad, how many do we mention? 7. How many did we mention altogether on the floor? What, 13? Play it. Number 1, monetary assets. Number 2, livestock. Number 3, agricultural produce. Number 4, women's jewelry. Number 5, treasures. Number 6, minerals. Number 7 is merchandise. Play it. It's very important that you understand. Now, let's ask a question. How many sisters have jewelry? I'm sure maybe all of them will raise their hands. How many brothers have monetary assets? Saved for at least a year, 2 years, 3 years. Some of us, mashallah, maybe 20 years, you may have some old money. The shoe boxes. Tayyib, khair, inshallah. Livestock. Any brothers have farms? Nobody? Mashallah, he has farms. Agricultural produce, women's jewelry, treasures, minerals, and merchandise. How many brothers have merchandise? How many brothers have stores or stands, things that they sell? You have a store? Where do you store?
I sell water.
You sell water. MashaAllah. Right, it's muhim. Alright, let's move on to the next point. The conditions for zakat being incumbent. Abu Hamid, what are they? Yalla, quickly. Conditions for zakat to be obligatory. Bismillah.
It gotta be held for a certain amount of time.
That it has to be held for a certain amount of time. Tayyib.
The conditions for zakat to be obligatory is first that one has to be Muslim.
One has to be a Muslim. Tayyib. What else? That's it? To be Muslim and have money for a certain amount of time, that's it?
You have to reach the limits.
It has to reach a minimum.
A minimum.
Tayyib. What else? Sisters. Muawiyah. Number 1, number 2. Tayyib. We have firstly Islam. 2, freedom. Person must be a free man. Cannot be a slave. It's not obligatory upon him. Number 3, for the wealth to reach the minimum amount. the minimum amount, which is called the nisab. The nisab. The fourth and last condition is the possession of the nisab. Abu Hamid, we didn't mention anything for amount of time. We didn't mention amount of time. When is zakat obligatory? It's land, freedom, the wealth reaches the nisab, and the possession of the nisab. Play it. Let's move on. We'll explain. We gotta move though. The next point is conditions for the nisab. When do you know that there is that condition of the nisab? We said reaching the nisab and possessing it. The first condition is that it be exceeded, or that the wealth that you have exceed your bare necessities, such as food, drink, clothing, bills, etc. The money that you have, you do not have to pay zakat on it if you're using that money to eat and to drink. Using the money that you put in your car for gas, driving to work, coming back from work. Your bare necessities, we said. Bare necessities, not the 72-inch flat screens. But not the vacations and the 50 overgarments and the pocketbooks and all. We said the bare necessities. Bare necessities.
Paying taxes?
Whatever is a necessity. Taxes, bills, the bare necessities. Number two, the second condition for the nisab is that 12 Islamic months pass by on the wealth which exclusions for agricultural produce. Is that you must have that wealth, whether it's monetary assets, gold, silver, dollar bills, reals, whether it's the camel, cattle, whatever it is, whether it's your merchandise, the oils that you sell, the poems that you sell, whatever merchandise, whatever it may be, you have to have it for 12 Islamic months, and not months of the Gregorian calendar. Pay close attention. The common error and the Hijri calendar is different. We know the longest that a month can be in Islam is how many days?
30 days.
30 days. And the shortest that it can be is what?
29.
29 days, depending on the sighting of the moon. Play it. When is the last time the brothers in the masjid looked for the moon?
Ramadan.
Here, Ramadan. What month are we in right now?
Shawwal.
Shawwal. Akid? We're in Shawwal? Sha'ban or Shawwal? Yalla, Bismillah. What did Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah say? Ahl Sunnah. أعرف الناس بالحق وأرحمهم بالخلق. He said the people of the Sunnah wal Jama'ah should be the most knowledgeable of the truth and most merciful to the creation. We have to know this information. Basically, what Islamic month are we in?
Rajab.
Rajab, are you sure?
No.
100%?
100%.
Tahir. The month of Rajab is not going to be any longer than 30 days, nor any shorter than 29 days. Now, the common Arabic calendar, a month will be 31 days, 30 days, 29 days, 28 days. You may say it's not a big difference, but when you add 12, all of those extra days by 12, then that can be extra 10, extra 9, extra 15 days. And that makes a big difference. Those 10 days that you counted the iddah period by the common era. That woman, she had 3 menses. Before it was 33 days or 32 days. So that means that for 6 days or for 5 days, you were with that woman. And she was not your wife. And we all know if you're not married, then it is what? That's all we have to say. If it's not zawaj or right hand possession, then it's something which is displeasing to Allah. And what happened then? If you made up Ramadan, any rule that you can think of, that you need a calculation of time, it should be done by the Islamic months, the Islamic calendar, and not the common era. It's very important. This is muhim. One day extra, one day late, could be a means of Allah punishing you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's punishment isn't no small, simple thing that you can say, oh, it's just a day. La. It's very important here. Very important. So the wealth, it should be held for 12 Islamic months, except for the Samir agricultural produce. That's not a condition of paying zakat on agricultural produce. And the third and final condition is that it must be independent ownership. Is that the wealth must be owned by you and you only. Not split into 3 people or 5 people or 2 people, but it's your wealth. You own the livestock. You own the merchandise. It's the woman's jewelry. Not the jewelry that she borrowed from her sister. No, it's her gold necklace or her gold pair of earrings and so on and so forth. Well, so those are the conditions for your wealth to reach the nisab. Tayyib? Now, who are the recipients of zakat? Who are the people that you give the zakat to? Who can you give zakat to? Who do you give zakat to? Fawwah, Sheikh. Abu Sharif.
The traveler.
He says the traveler.
The wife can give zakat to her husband.
The wife can give zakat to her husband. That's too specific. That's too specific. We need something general. A general class of people. You got me? You go again? Or we come back?
Come back.
Abu Mujahid.
The leaders of the land that you live in.
The leaders of the land that you live in. Tayyib. The sister says, miskin.
Give it to the shore of the masjid, and they will distribute it amongst the people.
Give it to the shore of the masjid, and they'll distribute it to the people. Who do they distribute the wealth to, though?
To the people that's needy.
Needy. That's what you want to say. You want the general class of people. You said the needy. Abu Poetry. Abu Shi'ar. The father of poetry. Orphan. Tayyib.
The person land that you living on.
Person land that you living on. Anything else from the sisters? Anybody else before we go on? Follow my way. Poor people. Tayyib. I'll send it. Anyone else? Anybody else? Abu Bakr. Bismillah. Al-ilm أهم شيء. اركب معنا.
المساكين.
ذكرهم. Wait, number 1. It says there are 8 groups of people to whom you're allowed to give zakat. 8 groups. Not 9, not 10, not 7. 8. Number 1. The poor. Between parentheses, al-fuqara. Those who cannot meet some of their basic needs. That's the definition of the poor. Those who fail to meet some of their basic needs. Number 2, the needy. Al-masakin. Those who meet most or half of their basic needs. The term miskin and faqir, if they're mentioned together, then they have different meanings. But if they're mentioned, if just one of them is mentioned, then they include both classes. Whenever the word fuqara and masakin are mentioned, then faqir means this and miskin means that. But if only the word miskin is mentioned, or just faqir, then they include faqir and miskin. Just like a mu'min and a Muslim. When the Prophet said the believers, the believer is this, the believer does that, then it includes the Muslim, the mu'min, and the muhsin. But if he says, إِنَّ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ إِنَّ الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَالْمُسْلِمَاتِ. If they're mentioned separately, then they have different meanings. So the faqir is the one who has some of his basic needs. The miskin is the one who has most of his basic needs, or at least half of them. The faqir is the one who doesn't have, think of something that's a basic need. Water. Food. The miskin is the one that has some food, but it's other things that he needs with regards to that food. All that. So the faqir is worse than the miskin. Number 3.
Beyond poor.
Naam. Those employed to administer the collecting and watching over the funds. The jubaz zakat. Those who collect. Those who are in charge of collecting and distributing the actual zakat. With the condition, if they do not receive a wage. Meaning in a Muslim country, or a place in which the Muslims lived as a body, and they had the ability to establish certain things. And the leader of the Muslims has administered people that work for the Muslim government, or the Muslim body to collect the zakat and to distribute the zakat. They can receive money from the zakat as long as they don't already have a wage from the Muslim treasury, the Muslim government. Everybody got this? Please? They can receive the zakat if they don't have normal paychecks. Number 4.
ولو لا يكون من الفقراء والمساكين.
كذا لأن هذا ينشغلون بهذا الشيء ينشغلون به. طيب والعاملين عليها يقول الله عز وجل عامل عنده عمل. طيب number 4, those whose hearts are being reconciled to the truth, those al-mu'allafa qulubuhum. Allah says in the Quran, those whose hearts we wish to bring forth or bring to the truth. We'll explain this later on. We have to mention it in general first. We have to give the general outline. Number 5, those who are in bondage. Number 6, those who are in debt. Number 7, in the cause of Allah, fi sabilillah. Number 8, the wayfarers. 8 people that can receive the zakat that you can give your zakat to. Next point, the nisab in detail. Now let's talk about the nisab of mujahid in detail. طيب, how many types of wealth we mentioned zakat must be paid for quickly? How many? 8. How many types of wealth? 8? 7 or 8? 7. The first one was what? Monetary assets. Okay, let's talk about the nisab of monetary assets. Gold, silver, and currency. That's what's meant by monetary assets. Gold, silver, that's not jewelry. I'm talking about if you actually traded and bartered with gold and silver, coins, nuggets. Al-Muhim, gold, silver, and currency. Let's keep things easy. For right now, let's say money, your savings, your stash that you have. How much is obligatory upon that knot that you have under the mattress shit? Or the shoebox? Or under the basement floor? Where else? Where else would they put it? In the ceiling. Where else?
In their shoes.
In their shoes. Walk around with it every day in their shoes?
You say, would you ask how much?
How much do you have to pay? What's the nisab of money? It's the most important aspect of zakat for us right now in the city. 2.5% is obligatory upon monetary assets. The nisab of gold is 20 dinars. The nisab of gold, meaning the minimum, the amount that you know that zakat is obligatory, if you have 20 dinars of gold, which is approximately 4 grams. 4 grams, should read. 4 grams of gold, which is equivalent to approximately 90 ounces. 90 ounces of gold. If you have 90 ounces of gold for 12 Islamic months, it's your money, your bills are paid, your bare necessities are set aside, then you have to do what?
Give zakat.
You have to pay zakat. How much zakat do you have to give? All your gold? 2.5. 2.5 of the total amount. Which amounts? We said that 90 ounces of gold, and this calculation was done last year, the last time we did this workshop. Which amount? You have to keep checking the gold market, Abu Hamid, because it fluctuates. He says which amounts to $4,800 US. The last time we calculated this, Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best, it was $4,800. So that means if you have $5,000 in the bank or in the ceiling or under the mattress or wherever you hid it or put up that money for 12 Islamic months, you would have to pay how much of that $5,000? 2.5. A center. 2.5. Now the question, what's the easiest way of calculating how much zakat you have to pay? Times about what? 2.5. Any way easier?
2 times.
Any way easier, Sheikh Hassan? Divided by what?
2.5 divided into 5,000.
Any way easier? The easiest way, wallahu alam, is that you take the amount of wealth that you have and you divide it by 40. You You divide it by 40. No points in this and thousands. Take 40, 40, and divide it by that amount of money. Whatever sum that you get, that's going to be what you have to pay on zakat. Like, that's the easiest way. And Allah knows best. Everybody is different. People have different minds, different ways. That's what we see to be most correct. Like, everybody clear on that? $4,800 US. If you have saved, you must pay 2.5 of that. The nisab of silver is 200 dirhams, which we don't have to get into detail. We stick which is easiest is gold. The second type of wealth that you must pay zakat on is livestock. Livestock. Zakat is obligatory on camels, sheep, goats, if they are tended to for a year or more, freely grazing in pastures or vacant open lands. If their amount reaches the nisab and are in one's possession for a whole year, one pays zakat on them if they are held for the purpose of milking and reproduction. Tayyib. I don't want to make any confusion. We have a times table which needs to be up here so everyone can see. 40 to 120 sheep, you have to pay 1 sheep in zakat. 121 to 200 sheep, you have to give 2 sheep. 201 sheep to 300 sheep, you have to pay 3 sheep. For every additional 100, there's 1 additional sheep. Next point, cattle. 30 to 39, if you have 30 to 39 cows, you must give a young bull or a young cow that's at least 1 year old. And if you have 40 cows, or 30, 33, 36, 38, 39 cows, in zakat you must give at least 1 cow, whether it's a male or female, a bull or a heifer, or at least it has to be 1 year old. If you have 40 to 59 cows, then you give a young cow, 2 years old. 60, 2 young, 1 year old cows, etc. We don't have to go into specific details about the animals, except for Abu Bakr, because he says he has animals, as a farm of animals, which inshallah one day we'll see. With some fresh milk and meat, inshallah. Camel, 5 to 9 camels, 1 sheep. 10 to 14, 2 sheep. 15 to 19, 3 sheep. 20 to 24 camels, 4 sheep, etc. Agricultural produce. Excuse me, forgive me for the haste, but we have to get it done. Right? So, inshallah, you can always go back to the recording, and in the future we can have the presentation. Agricultural produce. Zakat is obligatory upon all grains and all produce that is measured by dry volume and stored, such as dates, raisins, wheat, and barley. Some scholars say that everything that comes from the earth that's grown, that you must pay zakat on. And other scholars, they say raisins, sha'ir, barley. The view which we have selected is anything that is measured by dry volume, not fresh, dry volume. And it can be stored. It can be put up, it can be stored, and it's measured in a dry volume. Then that's the produce that you must pay zakat on. We don't have the time for the khilaf and why is this. This is the only thing we have time for right now. Here, anyone wants to read more about it? We said that zakat is obligatory upon all grains and produce that is measured by dry volume and stored, such as dates, raisins, wheat, barley, or rice. What happened to that? Play it. The nisab is 300 sa'. That's the word mentioned in the time of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. 300 sa', or approximately 624 kilograms. 624 kilograms. 300 sa'. Different varieties of the same produce, such as different types of dates, will be weighed together to reach the nisab. Okay? You have your dates, some dates are sukari, some are roto, some are like this, some are like that, whatever the names, the types of dates, dagat, tabor, so on and so forth. If it's dry, if it's stored, you have 3 different types of dates. You take the dates and you put them together until you have the amount, the weight. Or rice or anything else that is included in that category. Basmati, Thai, fragrant rice, brown rice, this type of rice. You put it together until it reaches that amount. Moving on to the next point. How much wealth do you have to pay on those dry or that the agricultural produce? 2.5? It's different. Right? What is it, Abu Hamid? 1/10. 1/10. It's a difference. Monetary assets 2.5. Agricultural produce is 1/10, ushr. And the naqdain, rubu' ushr, is 1/4 of 1/10, 2.5. 1/10 of produce is to be given from the land which is naturally irrigated, such as by rainwater only. If you have land, Abu Bakr, it's natural irrigation. By rain, you only have to pay 1/10. But if you irrigate that land through man-engineered means, then you only have to pay 1/20th. 1/20th. Why is that? Because it's harder, it's more difficult. The one who has to irrigate it himself has to go through more difficulty and watering his crops, right? So Allah has given him more mercy. 3/4 of 1/10 is to be given if the produce was partially irrigated naturally and partially irrigated by man-engineered means. 3/4 of 1/10, if it's half and half. I have modern pumps, and it also is irrigated or watered from the rain. Then you pay how much? 3/4 of 1/10. Play it. We have to move on. Number 4 is what? Woman's jewelry, you sure?
No. Number 4?
Number 4?
Woman's jewelry.
Play it. How much is it doing woman's jewelry? The only jewelry on which zakat is due is gold and silver. That's the only type of jewelry that you have to pay zakat for. Rubies, diamonds, platinum, emeralds, pearls, natural wooden jewelry, any type. The only thing that the jewelry which is obligatory for zakat to be paid is gold and silver. That's it. No other precious or expensive metal or stones or whatever you want to call them. The nisab for jewelry is the exact same nisab of monetary assets, which is how much? 2.5. Everybody got that?
No.
Clear. Number 5 was what? Treasures. You sure? What was number 5, Abu Bakr? Treasures.
No.
Or we say, buried treasures. Buried treasures. 1/5 is obligatory upon buried treasures, regardless of whether it be a large or small amount. No matter how much money it is, you must pay a khumus, 1/5. This money is to be given to the same categories of recipients of wealth taken from the disbelievers without fighting. The faith. We know in Islam, when there's legislative fighting, there's 2 types of wealth. And you know those 2 types of wealth? We have that which is called al-fay, and then we have that which is called booty. Play it. We have al-fay, and then we have that which is called يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ قُلِ لِلَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَأَصْلِحُوا ذَاتَ بَيْنِكُمْ وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Al-Anfal. Al-Anfal. Ikhwan, the 10th verse in the Quran. Excuse me, not the 10th verse, the 8th verse, before October. Al-Anfal. We have faith, which is translated as booty. And then we have spoils of war. There's a difference. They're not the same. The fay is the wealth that the disbelievers give to the Muslims. Without any fighting. They submit and surrender without any fighting. As for the spoils, then that's the wealth that is taken, left over after conquer or conquest. Clear. Wait, we don't want to get into those technical difficulties, but we just mentioned them. What's number 6? What number are we on right now? Number
5, treasure.
Number 5. Number 6 is what?
Minerals.
Minerals. Al-ma'adin or ma'adin. The nisab for gold and silver that is found in the earth is the exact same nisab for gold and silver that is used for monetary assets. There's a difference now between gold that you possess as money, as currency, and gold that you dig out of a cave. It's a difference. They're not the same. A gold coin is not the same as a chunk of gold, right? Or gold nuggets. It's a difference. Difference between the two, correct? The first, he says, so the nisab is the exact same amount. 2.5. Zakat is due on minerals as soon as they are found, and the whole is not a condition for zakat being obligatory on them. As soon as you get the treasure, you have to pay the zakat. You do not wait 12 months. When you dig up and you find the treasure. All that, it's a different ruling now. As soon as you get it, you pay the 2.5. طيب, خلاص, all that. As soon as you get it, it's not like the minerals, it's different. This is something, treasure, you found treasure, not digging gold, all that. Now, it goes on to say, some scholars hold the view that there isn't any nisab for minerals. Thus, a fifth is due on small and large amounts. They say that the minerals are just like the kunuz, the treasures. That there's no specific amount that it has to reach. You just have to pay a khumus, a fifth. Everybody with me? You with me on this one here? You with me? Everybody with me? Some say that it's just, the minerals are just like treasures. That if you find one piece of gold, one piece of silver, whatever that mineral may be, you have to pay a fifth of it. Another scholars say that it's just like the gold and the silver. Play it. Number 7. Number 7. Merchandise. And this is very important for us. What's meant by merchandise? Who can tell me the types of merchandise or things that you own in Islam? It's 2 types. 2 types of things that you own in Islam. When we say urud, the word in Arabic, the term, is called urud. Arad al-dunya. Term, arad. Urud. A possession is of 2 types. We have that which is called urud al-qinya or urud al-tijara. عروض القنية يعني تقتنيها أنت لنفسك، وعروض تجارة تقتنيها تحوزها لتتاجر بها وفيها. We have personal possessions. We have possessions which are held as merchandise. Things that you own for your own personal use, and things that you own for merchandise, for buying and selling. It's a very, very important point right here. Something that you own for yourself, and something that you own for merchandise. Okay. Let's say if a person is a very commonly asked question, a brother has a construction business, and he owns trucks. 3 trucks. A dump truck, a pickup truck, and a landscaping truck. Right? 3 trucks. All 3 of those trucks equal how much, Abu Bakr? Let's say, how much? How much do the trucks equal in dollars? Nothing.
$250,000.
$250,000. Right? Is that the nisab for monetary assets? Yes or no? Is that more than the nisab for monetary assets?
No.
We said the monetary assets were how much? 4,800. The amount, the nisab. Now what you have to pay? 200. He said how much? $250,000 his trucks are worth. But they're his own trucks that he uses for working. Then we have another brother who has a car lot. And on that car lot, he has 3 trucks for sale. And those trucks equal or amount $250,000. 2 men, they both have the same exact possessions. Zakat is obligatory upon one of them and not on the second one. The zakat is obligatory upon who? The one who's selling the cars or the trucks. The zakat is not obligatory upon the one who? This is his own personal possession. Well, now if he was selling those trucks, if he was renting out those trucks, that's a different issue. No matter how much money he makes, as long as he owns them and it's his own truck, he doesn't have to pay any zakat. But the moment he says it's for sale or rent, then he must pay zakat, because it's what? It's called urud tijara, it's merchandise. And it's no longer urud qinya. And this is for anything else. If you apply it to produce, if you have fresh fruits and vegetables in your house, or dry things, whatever opinion from the ulama that you take. I have a storage of raisins, And I have things, I grow raisins. It's a difference. Al-Kharij min al-ard. Agricultural produce, and that which I own. I have a bunch of raisins, a storage of raisins. It's my own personal possession. It's a difference. Or if I own raisins and I sell those raisins, 3 different people here. All of them have 400 saw of raisins. All 3 of them have 400 saw of raisins. He sells them, he grows them, and he has them because he has a very big family, and his family likes raisins. Which of the people have to pay zakat? Out of the 3, how many of them?
2.
2, less. Those who grow them and those who sell them. And what hadith? Everybody get the point? Personal possession and merchandise. The nisab of merchandise is the exact same nisab as monetary assets, which is 2.5. It is permissible to give 2.5 of the actual goods themselves as zakat. Okay, 2.5. If you sell those trucks, you give 2.5, or let's say something more simpler. Think of something you can sell that's in smaller pieces. Anything.
Clothes.
Clothes. I sent. You have in your store. You have $5,000 worth of clothes for 12 Islamic months. Abu Mujahid, do you have to pay zakat on those clothes? Yes or no?
Yes.
You have to pay zakat. How much zakat do you have to pay? What's the percentage? 2.5. Let's say it was a bad year. I didn't make any money. I was sick. I was in the hospital. I don't have the money to pay for that. 2.5 of 5,000 is how much? Quickly. Quick. I need a mathematician. Hello. 2.5. Come on, brothers. Don't act like you don't have those mathematical skills.
Yeah, break it down to 40 is 125.
Bismillah.
125.
Shake down. Bismillah. Allah, best in Jahili or the best in Islam? Sahih, The skills shouldn't go anywhere. $125. So look at that mercy, Juan. You have $5,000 and you only have to give $125. Billahi alayk, Baba asks you, is that hurting you? You got $5,000 set aside of your bills and your food, and Allah only asks you to give $125. Allah Akbar. But that $125 could work wonders to someone who's miskeen. Wonders.
That's right, give it to me.
You get blessed both ways, really.
That's for the rahmahullah. Okay, Sheikh, $125. Let's say I have the store, I have the clothes, I sell t-shirts and shoes and watches, duckers, I don't have the $125. What do I do now?
Give the merchandise you have.
Give what?
Give the percentage of the merchandise you have.
I sent a percentage of the clothes. So I take my shoes, polo shirts, the oils.
To the 125.
I sent her. It could be a pair of shoes, methalan. It could be 5 t-shirts. I don't know the prices of the modern day styles of all of them. I want him $125 if you didn't have the money. Everybody got this?
Back and get the money back
Okay, Marvin. Khayr inshallah. Fahimna hada?
No, يعني.
Everybody got this? Everybody got this? Right, let's move on. How many types of waffle left?
2. One more.
Which is what?
Treasures.
Treasures. Look up now. We mentioned the treasures.
We mentioned all of them.
Right here. Okay, when is the time of paying zakat? Yalla Muhammad, come on, let's go. Maghrib is approaching fast. When do you have to pay zakat?
Every 12 months.
Yeah, according to.
La. Ya akhi, what's your name, akhi? Salam alaikum, what's your name? Abdul Mu'izz, mashallah. A'azakallah. When do you have to pay zakat? Don't sit down yet, please give us an answer first. When do you have to pay zakat? Annually. Play. Anybody else?
Every 12
Who
months.
paid attention to the class?
Every 12 months.
Who? Men, Fahima,
Every 12
Every 12 months. That's the same thing annually. Who paid attention to the class?
It depends. What's the
يختلف.
we have? If you go, we have to pay it on the spot.
You want to say one must pay zakat immediately when it is due. Hold on.
No.
When you find the treasure,
right away.
12 months annually, or the agricultural produce is when you When you harvest it. وَآتُوا حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ. Allah says in the Quran, and give its due right on the day of its harvest. So when it's the harvest day, you have to pay zakat. 3 months, 2 months, 10 months, 9 months, 11 months, a week. Al-Muhim is when you harvest the agricultural produce. Clear? Everybody got that? So zakat is due when? Immediately when it is? Immediately when it's due. Whether it's wealth, whether it's jewelry, Al-Muhim, immediately when it's due. Next point. Unless he delays his payment for a time of dire need, or a near relative or neighbor. Some of the fuqaha have mentioned it is permissible for a person to store his zakat if he sees that hard times are coming. It's a major financial crisis, right? A recession, whatever you want to call it. And he knows next year, and Allah knows best, it seems it's going to be a really hard year. So I'm going to save up my zakat. I'm going to save, or the next 5 years will be very difficult. I'm going to save my zakat and wait for the Muslims are really needy and then give it to them. Some of the fuqaha have mentioned the permissibility of doing this. And that which is best is that you give it immediately, because you don't know, you could die, you can become sick. We don't know what could happen. Play it. Next point. Recommended acts when paying zakat. Things which are recommended, not obligatory, when it's time to pay zakat. One should pay zakat openly so that he will be free from any ill suspicion or nay suspicion. Zakat, some scholars, some of the ulama have mentioned that it should be paid openly. So no one can say, mashallah, Allah bless Quran, look how much property and wealth he has, he don't even give zakat. As many of us think, the nature of a human being is to have this ill thought of his brother. Unfortunately, many of us, is our nature, many of us. So to avoid that, we give the zakat in front of people. Not to show off, but so no suspicion will come to him. Play it. Number 2, one should distribute it himself to ensure that it gets to its rightful recipients. It's best that you give the zakat out yourself to make sure that it goes to its rightful recipients. Number 3, the one who receives zakat should make dua for the one who gave him the charity. Jazakallah khairan, may Allah increase you, akhi, may Allah bless you, may Allah forgive you of your sins. Number 4, it is recommended to give it to poor relatives for whom one is not financially responsible. It is recommended to give it to poor relatives for whom one is not financially responsible. Meaning, someone that you're related to, that you're not required to give sadaqah to. What's an example of a family member that you have to spend on?
Your grandma.
A relative, your grandmother. MashaAllah. What would you say? Abu Spice. Abu Lair.
Abu Chicken Pox.
Sheikha, at the moment.
The children.
Children, without a doubt. You have to spend on your children. They're related to you, you have to spend on them. Your wife. Your wife. Your... Think. Yalla. Your brothers.
Not your brothers. Parents.
Right, this is a long issue. One sister says children. This is a long issue of khilaf amongst the ulama. Sister says wife, of course. It's a long issue of khilaf amongst the ulama. And what proves who you have to spend on, who you don't have to spend on. Okay? We're not going to get into those technicalities right now, right here. Al-Muhim, those that everyone agree on that you must spend on your dependents. Your dependents. Inshallah. So therefore, it's best to give zakat to those distant relatives that are not your direct dependents. Because your family members deserve your ihsan and your khair and your ma'ruf more than anyone else. And it's something which is very, very dangerous. Many of us, we busy ourselves with being good and benevolent to many people, and calling many people, or warning many people, but we forget our own families. We go around the dunya, and we forget about our mother, our brother, the people that are our relatives. We don't even call them to Islam. Like, next point, Zakat al-Fitr. And let's say, we have about maybe We have 6 slides left. We'll stop here. We'll stop at these 6 slides. And we'll save the Zakat al-Fitr bi'idhnillah azza wa jal for perhaps another time. Inshallah, if Allah makes it easy for us to come back another time bi'idhnillah, we'll speak about the Zakat al-Fitr bi'idhnillah azza wa jal. We'll stop here. And the Zakat al-Fitr inshallah will come at a later time, closer to Ramadan. Right now we're just going to speak about the ahkam of Zakat. So this will be the end of our session. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us all beneficial knowledge and righteous action. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. تفضل.
Now, the merchandise you have, you go to base on the price sell it for or the price you bought it for to give them.
Right. The question says, the merchandise that you have, do you gauge it off of the price of what you bought it for or its value? ماذا ترى أنت? What do you think?
What you bought it for.
What you bought it for? Hold what you bought it for? The value. Lusamia. Tayyib. Anything else? Abu Sharif. The price, sisters, the price that you bought it for, the price or its value, or one may say, Al-Aslah lil-Fuqara wal-Masakin. Mumkin bit-tafsir, huh? One may say, let us look at what's most beneficial for the poor people. If it's most beneficial to go off the value, which is going to be more zakat, of course, then one can say that. Or one may say, I don't have a lot of wealth, it's slow, so let me just pay the zakat on the value. Or one may say, let's look at what's most beneficial for the poor people. Allah Azza wa Jalla alam. Me personally, la shak, looking at what's most beneficial is clear, but I would say the value. I would say the value. Wallahu alam. طيب خلاص تفضل شيخ.
And the sword, the calf, Musa and Qadir was at the town, and it was a treasure under the wall that the father left.
Naam.
You call it? Is this the same type of treasure?
It says this is the same type of treasure. Any treasure that you find, under a wall, old, abandoned, whatever the case may be, if it's considered treasure, then according to those ulama who hold that view, it's obligatory for you to pay the zakat on it. Under the wall, anything, wherever you find it.
But his father left that treasure for his children to survey. That's the same thing.
If you felt it, and you don't know whose money it is, whose wealth it is, you felt it. Regardless of the intention or the purpose of that wealth being left there. Wallahu a'lam.